And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Presque Isle Downs show. This is the episode covering the action of Wednesday, May 15th, 2019. I am your host, John Piassek, welcoming you to coverage of the 8 race program. Last night, a fairly logical night of racing, I thought. No crazy occurrences, unlike opening night, in which we did see that big um, pick four payoff, and of course, a pick five paid more than $14,000. Much more logical payoffs last night. We got 8 races on the schedule for Wednesday. Let's jump in. Race one. Now is a three-claiming field going 6 furlongs, a field of 6 fillies and mares. And as far as I'm concerned, this one has a big standout. That is number 1, Stardoza. Pablo Morales aboard, trainer Tim Gerton, who's got by far the most early speed in the field, has a great draw, has post one, should be able to zoom out to the top, and I think she is just going to keep going. Her Brisnet speed figure is much better than anyone else's in the field, with one exception. That's number 3. Here Comes Ava, who earned a string of figures in the low to mid 70s at the end of last year. However, she has not raced since the 26th of September, in which she tried to wire a field going a mile, opened up a big lead, and ended up fading away. Has had 2 workouts since then. They have both been very dull. Not quite sure that she's still back in tip-top shape for this affair, while Stodoza had a race on the turf at a mile and a 16th at Tampa Bay Downs back in March. It seems kind of an odd spot, but I do think it tuned her up very well. For this race, her workouts have been very sharp, and I think if you're playing the early pick 4, this is a good horse to just single and move on, and perhaps spread out in the other legs and try to catch a price, because as far as I'm concerned, you are not catching one here. Race number 2, maiden special weight. 3-year-olds and up, 6 furlongs, field of 7. 2 firsters in here. We've seen some interesting firsters lose over the past few days. We saw Ron Poth on Wednesday night had a very interesting first-time starter, ended up losing to Graham Motion's Charge, who had that race under his belt at Laurel Park. Number 2, Cohiba Ghost, kind of fits that mold. Mike Trombetta first-time starters, had a string of workouts at Fair Hill. Most recently went in 5 furlongs in 101 and 2/5 seconds. It's not a particularly strong maiden field. However, there is a horse in here who's got experience that I think merits a lot of respect. That is number 4, Mas Chickalin, I believe is how you pronounce that name. Gets blinkers on for the first time. Debuted at Tampa Bay Downs back in March, but actually fairly well backed in that race. Went off at about 7-1. Stalked the pace. Didn't do that much there, but was exiting a pretty live maiden race. The winner came back to win their next start, and so did the runner-up, for that matter. Mas Chicklin finished 2 lengths clear of the 4th place finisher. Definitely showed quite a bit of ability there. Earned a Brisnet figure of 74 on debut. That's the best last out figure in the field by about 17 points. Has had some workouts since that race. Definitely think this one looks pretty sharp. In fact, if you really want to go all in, you could play an ice cold double Stardoza with Mas Chickalin. I don't know if it would pay that much, but it's definitely worth considering. If you are looking for some horses to play underneath, there's a few in here actually. Number 5, Slick It Up, a Wayne Rice trainee. He did what Wayne Rice horses do, which is try to round back into form at the Keeneland Spring Meet and get absolutely killed. Did have good form last year at Presque Isle Downs, showed speed and faded a lot of the time. Earned a career best number of 76 in his last start of his 2-year-old season before being put away. And has a shot to do better second off of the layoff. Linda Rice has a horse in here who's got some experience in number 7, Perfect Mind. This is a filly going against the boys here. Just all the outside post, gets Adiel Ayala aboard. Has some spotty workouts, but more often than not, leaning toward the positive side. We'll watch the board on her. If she was well backed too, I would at least consider putting her in the bottom of exactas. I don't quite know if she's good enough to beat Mas Chickalin unless she really freaks on debut, which is possible. So you have to account for that. But overall, I think Mas Chickalin is the safest play. Race number 3, open 12-5, claiming field, 3-year-olds and up, going 1 mile, field of 6. Another horse with some lone speed in what looks like a pretty competitive race on paper. Number 1, Great Harbor K, or Key, I should say. Had a pretty crazy race last time, Tampa Bay Downs, back on April 28th. Opened up at one point a 14.5 length lead at the opening quarter mile. Tried to last the whole time, to the surprise of almost nobody did not, but did hold on to finish third and actually ran a season's best mark of 85. One mark that's not great with him. He raced 7 times this year. He's hit the board 6 times. He has never won. He always opens up a big lead. He is absolutely going to go to the front unless he gets completely left behind at the gate. Antonio Gallardo does pick up the mount on him. I do trust that he's going to send him straight to the lead. Hopefully, he'll notice that speed enough that he can last. Speed horses have it doing fairly well in the first 2 days of the Presque Isle season. Number 3, Bartleby is probably most likely winner as far as the off the pace horses go. Had some good form at Finger Lakes last year. Put together a little 2-race winning streak. Kind of tailed off near the end of their season and has been put away. Hasn't been seen since the 27th of November. Had been working out at Finger Lakes, but at this time of the year, of course, they don't run routes. It's almost all sprints at this point because everyone is kind of racing back into form over there. Not unlike you, although of course there are plenty of routes at this time of the year. Anyway, might need a race under his belt, but also has good late closing speed. Could have some pretty powerful kick near the end. With 5, Tinto Mesa makes his second start off of the layoff. Last seating as $8,000 claiming horses at Penn National. Has been kind of even in his last 3 starts. He kind of stumbles around near the back of the pack and picks up a minor check. However, his late pace figures are among the best in the field. He also could be coming from far behind. However, if Great Hobie Key puts them to sleep on the lead, he's going to be going with minor spots. This looks like a kind of race where if you really like Great Hobie Key, you could key him half puns on top of Exactus and try to make some money that way. Race number 4 does round out the early pick 4. Very tough field. It's a small field, only 6 horses, but it is a pretty competitive bunch. Nominals of 2 claimers, 3.5 fillies and mares going 5.5 furlongs. Number 1, Brooklyn's Surprise Man, who first started off the layoff last time out at Penn National, was hung wide the entire way and ended up flattening out against what I thought was a tougher field. Took 11 tries to break her maiden, but did run a career best figure of 77 in her season finale back on October 4th. That was actually for the Kevin Rice Barn who bred her. He didn't have the chance to do his Keeneland thing because he got rid of the horse, gave her to Luis Roberto. Nathan Vickers gets aboard, should be on or near the pace from the inside. It looks like a pretty strong threat. Number 2, Take Me Home for Antonio Gallardo and Tim Ham, another horse coming up from Tampa Bay Downs. Had been facing not only a 2 claiming company, just did not fire at all. In fact, she has been declining after running a career best race 5 starts back when breaking her maiden. This is probably the easiest field she has faced. She was racing against mostly allowance horses over the course of the winter and just didn't fire. Late pace figures are pretty good. Should be coming. Should at least be heard from in the late stages of this race. Number 4, Mahdi Tar was entered against Pennsylvania bred allowance horses on Tuesday. Scratch out of that spot to go here. Broke her maiden at Penn National back in May of last year and did it in gate to wire style. Showed up at Parks twice on the turf. Raced kind of evenly in those spots. Earned some good figures. However, neither race was that visually impressive and has not been seen since July 9th. Interesting horse, but couldn't eat a race. Even more interesting, I think, is number 5, Bonsai Benny. Lindsay Rains trains for Huber Villagomez. This horse's dirt form has been pretty spotty, but ran a fantastic race on the turf at Tampa Bay Downs back in April. Took the lead going 5 furlongs and a $16,000 maiden claimer. Blew the field away, earned by far a career top figure. Maybe that turf form is going to transfer over to the synthetic. I don't know. I do know that Huber Villagomez ought to be aggressive and send his mount towards the top. It's time for race 5, beginning the late pick 4. last night. Late pick 4 paid a solid $108. The pool was over $32,000 on what was in general a pretty good overall handle night at Presque Isle. They handled about $973,000. That is up from day 2 last year, which is a good sign. Hopefully that continues, and they have even some $1 million handle days. That'd be pretty nice. Race 5, now is a 3 claiming field. Field of 8. The distance is 1 mile. Number 1, Lord Revelstoke. Looks like the primary speed in this Group 1 at the Novice 2 level. Last time out at Turfway Park, under similar circumstances, had the looked like primary early speed in that field too. Went right out to the lead and ended up holding sway, and in fact earned a career top over a synthetic surface. In fact, it was his first start over a synthetic track. But even so, that figure of 75 that he earned puts him in the mix. He does have the early speed edge and should be used aggressively by Julie Burke. Number 2, Animus, a $300,000 purchase once upon a time, now in a 12.5, and in fact was claimed for 8 at Tampa Bay Downs earlier in the year. He is 2 necks away from having won 3 times in a row, stalking the pace every time. He got up to win going 1 mile and 40 yards at Tampa Bay Downs back in March, earned a figure there of 77, and in fact that was the lowest figure he had earned among his last 3 starts. Very consistent sort, or very hard knocking, should be forwardly placed, and I think he could have a good running style to win it all. Number 4, Perfect Joe, also looks like a speed candidate. He's only lost 1 time at the Novice 3 claiming level, which is also true, in fact, of Lord Revelstoke. In fact, Lord Revelstoke has never lost a Novice 3 claiming race. Always a good sign in these kind of cheap races to find horses who are not proven losers at the level just yet. One key to wire in that race, you have to figure Mike Allen is going to try to do so again. And in fact, that plays into the hands of Animus, I would think, because if Lord Revelstoke and Perfect Joe try to go at it on the lead, could end up winning, eat each other out. They both give way. Animus comes on and beats them on the wire. Number 6, Mad Jack, last seen last year at Penn National, as I have noted in my write-ups and on these videos. Joe Martin not great with horses first off of the layoff, and that has been true so far as well. This horse has not been seen since October 3rd. He closed well in that race, came on to get second. Looks like kind of horse who pick up a piece, kind of make a middle move, flatten out, and end up finishing 3rd or 4th. Race number 6, Novice 2 claiming field, $25,000 is the tag. That means by Novice 2 claiming standards, this field is pretty good, I would say. It's decent. 6 furlongs is how far they are going. He is gone, was gone last out, broke his maiden in extremely impressive fashion. He went right to the lead, battled on the pace, and drew off to win by 13 lengths and earned a huge prisoner figure of 86. Comes in here with the highest last out number by 10 points and has the highest average early, middle, and late pace numbers in this group. So he's looking, in my book anyway, pretty hard to beat. Number Quid Pete, number 6, scratched out of a non-winners of 1 allowance on Monday to come here. He broke his maiden at Tampa Bay Downs last time, an upper level maiden claiming race. His figure has declined in each of his last 3 starts. However, they were all in the mid to low 70s. Looks like a pretty consistent sword. Should sit just off the pace and then make a big move on the turn. Number 3, Elsie Time, another one coming off a long layoff. Interestingly, Antonio Gallardo rode He Is Gone in his maiden breaking score at Tampa. However, he jumps off him here in favor of Elsie Time. Very interesting move, especially since Elsie Time has lost several times in a row against winners. His career mark is 1-for-13, while He Is Gone has never lost. This is his first start against non-winners of 2 company. Cuts back in distance after some tries going 2 turns last year. He should be near the pace. Not quite sure how much his horse likes to win. In the only race he ever did win, it's almost like he won it by accident based on looking at the running lines, kind of grinded out a score. Definitely feeling him for the underneath spots. Not so sure about him winning. Before Stormy Engagement also comes off a long layoff. Trader Eduardo Rojas, 21% with horses coming off a 90-plus day break. Had a clear lead in the stretch last time, going at 1 mile and 70 yards and ended up getting caught.
now cuts back a distance for the first time in a long time. In fact, he has not been in a sprint since October of 2017 when he was a total non-factor in a maiden race at Laurel Park. In fact, that was the same maiden race that Tricks to Do broke his maiden in, extremely impressively, I might add. And of course, Tricks to Do was entered on Friday in a stakes at Pimlico. So definitely some very varying paths for those two. Race number 7, starter allowance field of fillies and mares, 6 furlongs. Another interesting group here. Number 1, Sister Stella, a veteran of Presque Isle Downs. She's made 33 starts. 32 of them have come at the Erie, Pennsylvania Oval. One in non one other than allowance race in a race which was much the best. Buried in traffic most of the way. Ended up getting through late, won by 3/4 of a length, and earned a very good figure of 80, which just misses being the best last out number in this group. Has not been seen in a while, but actually had a similar profile going into her debut last year for the season. Had a clear lead in the stretching as Novel's a Ford claiming company and got run down. Still earned a pretty good figure of 80. This is a tougher group than she was seeing in that race, I would imagine. But she has shown in the past that that long layoff is no trouble for her. So I would not be surprised if she ran a big race here. Number 5, Alexandra K. If you take out that race against Stakes Company at Woodbine last out, a race in which she was probably in over her head. Her form has been excellent. She earned 2 huge figures going gate to wire over the synthetic. Then 4 starts back went to Saratoga, tried to start her allowance race on the turf. Didn't do much there either, but in those times in which she sticks to Presque Isle Downs, her form is quite good. In 12 starts at this draft, she's come in first or second 8 times. Looks like a real horse type and has to be acknowledged as a contender in this field. Number 3, Dawn Lightning also has early speed. Won 2 in a row, both times on the lead at Gulfstream Park. Was laid off after getting claimed by Michael Stable. Then had an absolutely terrible beginning at Finger Lakes in a race that was probably intended to serve as a prep for a spot like this anyway. Take that race out, and I think you can because the bad start totally screwed up a speed horse like her. And you have a horse who has a dangerous weapon and has been in pretty sharp form and had that race under her belt to boot. Race number 9, $5,000 claiming race. We have another triple fig in here. Triple figs, of course, so far 0 for 1. We had that 0 for 34 maiden on Tuesday night, who ended up coming in third. In a pretty good closing rally, but still came in third. This is number 9, Anna Squam, a recent California shipper. Has been in, or was, I should say, in excellent form at Golden Gate Fields last year. Her worst figure in her last 3 is a 79. No one's done better than a 76 in their last 3. Comes first off the layoff, was trained by Jonathan Wong out there. Now goes out for the Anthony Stabile Bard. Should be on or near the pace. Has experience over Golden Gates. Tapeta now goes over to the Presque Isle Downs. Tapeta, so she knows the surface. And looks like such a standout over the rest of the field. She looks like a very obvious single in the pick 4 or the pick 5, based on whichever one you like to play. That is this week's episode of the Presque Isle Downs Show. I'm your host, John Piassek. Find my picks on the Daily Gallop, dailygallop.net. Find me on Stable Duel. Find me on Twitter at The Off. Keep watching this show. I'm trying to grow it. I have to validate myself. And we'll see you tomorrow. Best of luck on the Wednesday card at Presque Isle Downs.